I had my reservations because it was triplets, and I was very excited because I had miscarried a singleton pregnancy before them. So now I'm like, great, we're gonna get a big bang for our buck.
It wasn't really the fear of having 3 at once as much as it was just the excitement of, new babies.
The goal for, I think, any multiple pregnancy is to get to 34 weeks because I believe that is the point where the lungs are fully developed. But then at 24 and a half weeks, I was getting ready to go for a regular checkup, and they're like, oh, well, we're gonna admit you in the hospital because you're contracting.
Yeah, you're in labor.
So at 24 and a half weeks, I went in, and it was a bit scary that evening. Some people in the hospital thought the babies were going to come then, which was not optimal. They gave me a drug called magnesium sulfate, which it saved all of us. They said if they were to be born right then and there, 75% survival rate. And they said if you can get to 28 weeks, which I almost did, then it rises to 95%. So that was pleasantly surprising. But babies decide when they're gonna come out. Samantha, who was in the middle, she's like, we gotta get out of here. So it just happened so fast.
In a matter of a few minutes, the decision is made, no, we're gonna do this cesarean.
And they needed to get them out as quickly as possible. So they knocked me out completely.
So that she's out, and now we're trying to make decisions on what's gonna be done and how it's gonna be done. And I met a doctor who mentioned that there had been a study going on about lung surfactants, and that was the next miracle cure for problems with lungs, because the lungs work, but not until the baby is ready to come out into the world and breathe air do the lungs secrete this lubricant. And what happens without that lubricant, the lung walls stick together, right, and they can't function properly.
But at that time, in 1994, surfactant wasn't FDA approved. So we had to sign a waiver.
From what I understand, it shortly thereafter became standard protocol.
Samantha, who was born first, she had the least amount of problems, and she was the smallest. She was 1 pound, 13 ounces.
They're all about a foot long, like Subway foot long sandwich. I remember that, 12 inches.
So like all 3 of us together would have been the weight of a normal,
a small normal baby, yeah.
Alexandra, from the get-go, had your typical preemie, flinging, flailing, startled look in the incubator. Always looked agitated. And then one day, when I was focusing on Lauren, because they were talking about the bleeding on the brain, I look over, and Alexandra, who was always pretty hyper, was just laying there. And I'm like, oh, something's not right. Sure enough, I got home that day. They called and they said, yeah, mother's instinct. We almost lost her. She has an E. coli infection, so something must have gotten into her incubator.
All the bells and whistles are going off. Everybody's running in. It's this big panic. They told us at the time that there's a 50-50 chance that an E. coli infection of that magnitude would have killed an adult. So the fact that she made it when she was only that small, it really was a bit of a miracle.
So that, coupled with just being born premature, that's what affected, her development, and she was always developmentally delayed.
When you speak with her, she's as bright as the day, but her speech is labored because the brain can think at the right speed, but the lip muscles and everything else, the tongue, it's hard for her to enunciate properly.
Growing up, I struggled to find motor skills and gross motor skills, like learning how to hop, skip, etc. And without these two, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Gosh, the best medicine for her was being a multiple, because I swear, no matter what the doctors did, no matter what we did, if she was a singleton and didn't have those built-in subliminal role models her whole life, we didn't ever care if she rode a 2-wheel bike. But by golly, I think she was sick of seeing her sisters doing it. They had been doing it since 1st grade, and in 4th grade in our cul-de-sac, she finally was like, oh, I want to be like them.
As far as being a triplet goes, it's funny when people ask that question, because I was like, what's it like? Is it cool? Whatever. And we don't really know any different. So we're like, I guess. I don't really know.
I'd say it's like living with your 2 best friends, basically. So.
Anybody that has young children, and not just multiples, I think will benefit from the fact that there are organizations like the March of Dimes that do the hard work.
And there seems to be much more of a need for the March of Dimes research and funding, because it just seems like there's a lot more pregnancies ending up in premature birth.
I've actually had a couple friends reach out just from who I know from jobs and things, and they've shared with me that they're having trouble getting pregnant. They're doing IVF or all of this stuff, and I reassure them, I'm like, well, look at us, we're here, yeah. When
you're in it and you're living it day to day, you're freaking out, you're just like, my babies might not make it. Oh my gosh, you can't see the forest through the trees. There is hope, and if our 2-pound babies survived and went through what they did in 1994, oh my gosh, we're 25 years later. There's so much more technology, research.
Even though we had a rocky start right at birth, I think our story and the fact that we're adults now, we have our own professional jobs, our own professional lives, I think it'll really give people hope.
The hope is always there, whether it be with prematurely born children or any other challenging circumstance. It's not letting the worries overwhelm you, because there will be a positive outcome eventually.